Cool, so I'm Ellis Moss and I'm gonna take you through a quick tutorial of a track I built very quickly using exclusively sounds from the Underground House sample pack out on Toolroom Academy. This pack has everything you need to get started and make a finished house record in no time at all. Everything in this pack has been processed professionally by industry-leading DJs. Everything from bass loops, synth elements, to full drum loops, effects, and much, much more. So let's get into it. So the first thing I started with this track was finding the right bass line. For this, I just took one straight out of the pack. I did not do much to it except for pitch it down one semitone. That sounds like this. That's straight out of the pack, no extra processing done to that, apart from a very small amount of sidechain compression, which you'll see in a minute. So next, I tried to find a kick that had the right sub, the right tone to it, and a nice click. And I settled on the one from the Sidekick drum kit, and I felt that worked really well with the bass. So that sounds like this together. Next, I tried to find a hat that I thought added the right kind of groove. I didn't want to do anything too complicated for this one. I wanted the drums to be quite minimal. So I found this loop here, which is quite nice because it's just one small main hat and a few little shakers on the top. So all together, that sounds like this. When I'm working with my drums, particularly my tops and my percussion loops, I find it's really helpful to be very vigilant and high pass, everything that's unnecessary in things like hat loops and clap loops. So there'll be a little bit of low end energy in that hat, and it probably isn't very important for the vibe of the song. So you'll actually save space and create space in your mix by taking out as much of that as you can without losing the character of the sound. So I like to use the Pro Q3 from FabFilter. I think this is the best all-round EQ. It's super powerful and pretty much everybody uses this. So if you can listen without the EQ, it sounds like this. And if I put the EQ on, it sounds like this, which is basically exactly the same. But if I click this, you'll be able to listen to everything that I'm removing, which isn't a lot, but over the course of 10 or 20 loops, that's going to add up and it's going to really muddy up your low end. So next, I wanted to add my clap. I think the kick, the hat, and the clap are the first three things you need to look at after you've got your bass or whatever sorted. For this, I went a bit differently. I found the right clap in a top loop. So don't be afraid to look in other places for elements or use elements in ways that aren't necessarily the way that they're designed to be used. I think that can help you find a really interesting creative sound to your music. So I found a cool clap in this top loop, and that sounds like this. I kept a shaker from that loop, but it's the clap that I'm more interested in. So that sounds like this. And then I went through and I added all the other top loops. So together those sound like this. And that's a combination of 4 different top loops. So it's pretty much just 4 different shakers. That's more of a tam thing. This comes in the second half. That's another tam. It's a bit brighter. That's like a chunky, clunky metal hat sort of thing that's panned hard left. Yeah, it is panned hard left. My speakers are back to front. And then that's just straight down the middle. It's more of a rhythmic thing. It's just quite a sharp, tight little hat. You don't want to use lots of things that are very similar. Everything should be doing have its own place in your mix, so that they all complement each other. And when you're looking for the right sound, quite a good method is to see if it pokes out. And if it pokes out, that means there's a hole there in your mix, which means that sound could potentially be quite a good candidate to fill that hole. And that's kind of what you're trying to do when you're building your percussion groove. You're just trying to take care of every level of your percussion, from the low frequency to the high frequency. You want layers, going from low to high. You don't want to have lots of middle or lots of low and lots of top. You want it quite evenly spaced out. So altogether that sounds like this. So it's quite a techno vibe. But I like that. I think that's really cool. But before we do that, I'm just going to show you my percussion, which is sort of tonal, mid-range stuff that sits in the drum groove. So that sounds like this. So when I'm doing my perc, I like to find a loop and drag a loop into the mix, and then listen to it, and it might have 5 or 6 different hits or elements in that one loop, and I like to identify what is the actual one sound in that loop that I like the most, and I will usually just cut out everything else. So for example here, this whole loop sounds like this, but the only thing I actually liked or wanted in my track was this. Just that, because more is not better, less is more, actually. So it's just that. I've also got this. And we have this one. So that's like my 3 kind of shuffly one-off hit things. It's just that. And then I have this, which is kind of like a low shaker, which complements the actual shakers quite nicely. So if I play that with the actual shakers. Yeah, cool. Moving on to the main lead. This was fun to do. All I did was I went into the one shots folder. I found, I think it's Energy Stab. Yep, so it's Energy Stab, and all I did was I dragged that into a Contact, which is a sampler, so that lets you drag samples from anywhere on your computer into this instrument, and then you can play that sample up and down a keyboard. So you can make melodies out of single notes, basically. And so that sounds like this. What I did in Contact was I dragged down this speed knob here, which means the sample plays slower, so it's a bit longer. Without that on, sounds like this. I just wanted it to fill it out a little bit more, and I played around with the envelope here a little bit just to get the right kind of shape that I wanted. I put a delay on it. This is Echo Boy. This is my favorite delay. I use it for pretty much everything. That's playing at 8th notes. That's the that you're hearing. I I put it through my favorite reverb, which is Valhalla Vintage Verb. Just subtle, 5%, not doing much. I use the same settings pretty much every time. And then again, I'm doing a bit of sidechain compression, which means when the kick comes in, this synth ducks down a little bit in volume just to keep some space and add a little bit of a rhythmic groove. You'll see an orange line here every time the kick hits, and that's how much in decibels down here the synth is going down in volume. Cool, that's the lead stab, and then I added a couple more little ear candy melodic stuff just to keep you entertained, and just so that the only melodic thing you're hearing isn't just the lead. These sound like that, and altogether the melodic stuff sounds like this. So it's not doing much, but it just elevates it, takes it from a very basic sounding track to something with a bit more depth. Everything we've covered together, playing at once, sounds like this. So the last sort of big group of elements that I want to cover is the effects. There's a few different kinds of effects in the pack, all which you'll find in every good house track. You've got your synth risers, you've got your snare rolls, you've got your up white noise, you've got your crashes, you've got your low boom, and it wouldn't be a Toolroom pack without some clap fills. Throw it all together and you have and really utilizing these effects in creative ways and making sure that you're not missing any tricks is definitely one of the hallmarks of a great Toolroom production. So we've covered everything in the track. This is everything I would normally do in a track as well, and it's all here in the pack. So let's give it one more run through and you can really get an understanding of how everything comes together into one nice arrangement.